So in our last episode, we had just crossed the famous Pentecost River. Our next stop was only a short drive down the road to Ellenbrae Station.
We drove through the iconic baobab trees front gates, then through to the front entrance of the station. Seeing grassy green lawns was a pleasant sight.
We visited reception, booked a site, and went and set up.
While checking in, we had a squiz at Dusty's bar menu and couldn't resist the temptation of a palmy, so we booked a table.
Kurt's parents got ribs while we got our palmies. All meals smelt and tasted delicious.
The next day, we opted to relax around the campground, having a quick swim in the pool.
After 2 nights of R&R, we continued on along the Gibb, driving out of those iconic station gates.
Not far down the road was Bindula Falls. As it was managed by Home Valley Station, Rusty was allowed on this walk.
Although the falls weren't flowing, there was still a large volume of water at the bottom.
We pulled up at Durack River just after lunch. With the large river, I was hoping that there would be some fish about.
We found a great spot high up on the eastern bank. With our new friends Vic and Amanda, Vic so happened to be a welder and was carrying a portable welder and helped weld Kurt's parents' exhaust back on. How's that for bush mechanics?
No fish were caught, but the exhaust got fixed and the Durack River was a great free overnight spot.
We continued along the Gibb. Our next stop was only 50 kilometres down the road, Ellenbrae Homestead.
Along the Gibb, we have seen quite a few signs with the allure of fresh scones with jam and cream. This was what made us detour to the Ellenbrae homestead.
At the homestead, you will notice the lovely shady trees and manicured gardens. Another unexpected find along these dusty dirt roads.
We grabbed some fresh scones and enjoyed them out on the lawn in the garden area. I even had a small game with this resident dog.
It was then just a lot of dirt road driving to get to our next camp spot, the Gibb River Rest Area, which is 5 kilometres north along the turnoff road to Mitchell Falls in Kalumbaru.
Plenty of space for campers. My dad found this old kid's bike leaning up next to a tree.
We even spotted this bush telly mounted on a nearby tree. It had an LCD screen, PowerPoint and satellite dish.
Across the road from the campsite was the actual Gibb River, which still had plenty of water about. We spotted a freshwater croc while our mate Vic had a fish.
The next morning, while taking Rusty for a walk, we found some rock art. It was pretty cool, random find. We're not sure what the paintings represented though.
All packed up, we continued our trek north, making our way to Drysdale Station.
topped up on fuel and filled our water tanks, then headed to the bar to grab some burgers.
The burgers were good and hit the spot. All tanks full, we jumped back on the road and continued north. There wasn't much to see on the drive up, but the scenery changes were nice.
We spotted some dead wood on the side of the road and chopped it up, ready for some campfire cooking.
Just stopped at a gravel pit at the Gibb, just making some bread. Got the fire on. This should make about 2 loaves of small bread, which does us for sandwiches and nibbles and stuff like that. And yeah, instructional video to come.
The next day, we got up early and left Rusty in our van at the gravel pit. My parents wanted a rest day, so they were more than happy to babysit Rusty while we day tripped into Mitchell Falls.
Our gravel pit was just a couple of kilometres south of the turnoff to Mitchell Falls Road.
Luckily for us, the road had just been graded, so it was pretty smooth run for the majority of the road. The worst bit for us was the last 20 kilometres.
We made good time getting to the park entry.
All geared up, we hit the trail and started to hike in.
It was a relatively flat walk in, with just a few little bits of rock hopping and minor inclines.
Just shy of 1 hour, we made it into the picturesque Mitchell Falls.
We found a nice spot to observe the falls and have some mid-morning snacks.
We then walked all the way around the very top of the pool. It was surprisingly very shallow. We trekked back and had a dip near the designated swimming hole.
It was then full steam back to the car park.
Guys, so we just did Mitchell Falls Plateau, which is in Northern Territory.
Yeah, on the Gibb. It's a must-see waterfall on the Gibb.
It took us an hour and a half from King Edwards, which is a drive-in. The last 20 k's was pretty bad, and then the walk, it took us an hour each way.
Yeah, each way.
And we spent about an hour to 2 hours swimming and doing all the good stuff that you've seen on the video.
It was a pretty easy walk, easier than I thought. Just started early in the day.
We only took a litre each of water, so that was pretty underestimated there. We probably should have took about 2 litres each, which would have been our bladder if we took that, but we didn't take that. But yeah.
So now we're going back to check on little Rusty. Kurt's parents are looking after her.
Yep.
It's been good, so we'll head back and check on
Yeah, that's the only downer. There's no dog camping around here, but there's plenty of gravel pits, so unfortunately that's what we have to do. So
I'm just lucky travelling with another party that can watch her.
Yeah. So yeah, let's head on back.
Alright, let's go.
We jumped back on the dirt, headed back to our campsite, and then decided to stop in at 2 small detours, as we knew Rusty was well looked after.
The first detour was to a small walking trail.
We found some Aboriginal rock art along with some cool caves and rock formations.
After a leisurely 20-minute stroll around, we headed back to the car.
Our next detour was into King Edward River. Only a kilometre off the main road, we thought it was a worthy detour for another dip.
We followed the water upstream and came to this waterfall with no one about. How good is that?
We jumped straight in and cooled off in our own waterhole, mucking around for a good 30 minutes before jumping out and heading back to Little Rusty.
Kurt's parents went and did Mitchell Falls the following day while we chilled around camp. It was then full steam back down to continue along the Gibb.
We love corrugation. Hold on. Everything is safe.
We only got about 40 kilometres from our gravel pit before we were waved down by a stranded traveller. Poor John had cooked the hub. Luckily for him, me and my dad are very mechanically minded, and we were able to do a temporary repair to help him get to Drysdale Station so he could order some more parts.
He and his wife were very grateful for the help. Nothing like helping a fellow Aussie out.
We then topped up some more fuel before continuing south to the T intersection.
The road from the T section towards Derby was great. It was probably the smoothest section of the Gibb. We stopped for an afternoon rest before deciding to make it to Barnett River for the night.
We slightly misjudged how far away it was and found ourselves heading in on nightfall, where we met some stubborn cattle.
Rusty was being very vocal to try to convince him to move off the track, as were we.
After a good 5 minutes trying multiple methods, they finally budged and moved off the track.
The campsites are just bush camping, but we were happy as it was free and close to the gorge walk.
We put on our walking shoes and all headed down to the start of the gorge walk. It's managed by the local indigenous residents, and since it's not national park, pets are welcome, which is awesome.
For the trail into the gorge, you follow these rock towers which are spread along the track. Once you see the first few, they get easier to spot, with the occasional arrows and signs to point you along the way.
We checked out the gorge and the lookout before heading back to the car. A nice easy hike with Rusty and the perfect way to start the day.
Well, join us next time as we find one of our favourite gorges along the Gibb.
Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring those notification bells. Also, leave us a comment, and if you liked the video, why not give us a thumbs up. Cheers, legends.